Hello everyone, welcome to another session of Business Data Science with Delali. And today I would like us to talk about how to actually analyze and interpret A/B testing results. If you have been following us, you saw that in our past videos we talked about how to plan and run an experiment in a business setup. If you have not watched any of these videos, I'm going to link one of these for you, and then you can use this to actually really understand and follow through all of our series regarding experimentation in business. But for today, we are going to talk about how to actually interpret A/B testing results, okay? And I'll give you some tips from my personal experience, okay? Now, the first thing I want you to keep in mind is wherever the result is coming from, be very skeptical of any A/B testing result that you are reading, okay? Be extremely curious, okay? Don't just take the result at the surface, because even the best data scientists that I've seen, the best statisticians that I've seen, sometimes they forget certain things, okay? So make sure that when you are interpreting this result, you are actually looking very critically and not making any assumptions, and you are always very skeptical, okay? A few key steps that I would recommend when analyzing A/B test result is: number one, make sure that you kind of get some background about the test design. What's the primary hypothesis, what the metric we are actually looking to evaluate, what's the primary metric, what is the secondary metric. Those are very important, okay? Number two, make sure that you actually compare the results across the treatment and the variant groups, okay, across all the KPIs, both primary and secondary, that you are looking at. And then make sure that after you look at the result and get your conclusion, you can also go further to segment your result by your common segments, just because by doing that you learn more from your analysis, okay? So don't just end at the A/B groupings and that's it. Continue to analyze and segment your result. The only thing you have to be careful there is that do not make conclusions based on certain segments, especially if the sample size is very small. And then of course consider any external factors or internal factors that may impact your result, like new product launch. Is there any cannibalization? Is there any seasonality? Think about all of that. And then of course, once all of this is done, you can go ahead and communicate result. And of course, do not guarantee that after this result is seen to be statistically significant, it means if you run this result again, you get this. If you run this experiment again, you get the same result, because there's so many considerations which I will talk about briefly. So these are just some basic steps that I'm putting here for you to actually keep in mind and watch out for if you are interpreting A/B testing result. And if you are watching this for the first time and I have not explained what A/B testing is, I have explained that in my previous videos, which I'm going to link here for you again. But A/B testing is just like a very simple experiment where you only have two groups. You have a baseline or control group, and then you have a new group. Let's say you have two marketing offers. One is get 30% off your purchase, and then the other one is buy one get one free. So these are just two groups you are comparing, and so this is a typical A/B testing, and is the most common testing that we see in business, okay? So next I'm going to pull up some experiment results and then we'll review together. Okay, so here is an example of an A/B test result that I'd like to just go over very briefly with you. Okay, of course people display A/B test results in many different ways, but this is one of the common ways that many people display A/B test results. So the hypothesis here is that by displaying a pop-up that informs customers that a product was successfully added to shopping cart, there will be an increase in cash to checkout conversion rate. Okay, so that's the hypothesis, of course. So the primary metric here is the cart to checkout conversion rate. But of course, there are several other secondary metrics that you could look at. Two of them that we listed here, are transactions and then revenue. Okay, so the baseline is that when a user basically add a product to cart, there is only a notification that appears. Okay, and then the variant here is that there is a pop-up, okay, that appears with a CTA. CTA means call to action, that appears when a product is added to cart, and the hypothesis is by doing that we'll have some improvement in conversion. So again, if I'm looking at this, I have to make sure I understand the hypothesis. Well, I have to make sure I understand the baseline, the treatment, as well as the metrics. So I think those are clear. Okay, then of course I have to kind of look at the groups here, look at the baseline, the variance, look at the sample sizes here. Think about this in terms of the the test design, and make sure that this sample here is at least minimum that is needed to ensure that this test is statistically valid or statistically credible. Okay, now I'm looking at it. We have about 5,000. That looks like enough sample for me. And then after that, I look at the conversion rate between the baseline and the variant. As you can see clearly here, it looks like the treatment, which is the variant, is having a higher conversion rate, and that is about 13% with a p-value of 0.009. Of course, this is less than 0.05, which is the significance level. So we conclude that the test is what? Statistically significant. Another thing we look at is the confidence interval for the difference, and you can see here this interval is not too wide. So I feel pretty good about this result. So that's some of the ways that you can actually look at this result and start to ask questions and think about it. But again, this only tells you the overview of the results and give you some confidence that, oh, okay, by truly adding this pop-up and with the CTA, there's some improvement of about 14% in cart to checkout conversion rate. Okay, so does that mean that every time when you run this result you have the same, or when you run this experiment you have the same result? No. So how do you interpret this? This only means that this difference of 13.8% is not likely due to chance. Okay, so it's not a guarantee that if you replicate this again you will actually see the same result, and I'm going to highlight a few reasons why this is true. Okay, one of the things that I also mentioned earlier in the beginning of this video is to further segment the results by some of the common segments that you use or that make sense, so you can just understand more what is going on, so that you can interpret what might be driving the difference. Okay, of course you could do this in many different ways. This is just an example, since we were discussing about what pop-up notifications. I was curious if the device that the buyer is using might have some influence on this. So I look at this result by desktop, mobile, or tablet. So this is really by device type. Okay, so again, look at the conversion rate here. Of course, the sample size here is also splitted into 3 groups, and so do not conclude here statistical significance, because these sample size are smaller than the minimum sample size at the group level. So this is a mistake that most people do. Whenever we segment result and we have smaller groups, we cannot guarantee the same level of statistical validity or the same level of statistical power. Okay, unless you check the statistical power and a sample size of 1,900 actually still makes sense for you to conclude. Otherwise, just look at this directionally and interpret the result as such. Okay, and so you can see here that across all the device groups, the variant definitely outperforms the baseline. Okay, which is good, which means that there is nothing happening maybe in mobile that might be different in desktop. Across all the device type, it seems like the conversion rate for the variant is more than the baseline. Okay, which is great to see. And then I also look at purchase conversion. So these are some secondary metrics. So purchase conversion here is how many people are actually buying. So conversion rate, basically, cut to check out conversion rate is not necessarily purchase conversion rate. So, the third column from the right is looking at the purchase conversion rate just to see secondary metric, what's going on. And again, here you can clearly see that again the baseline is having a lower purchase conversion rate than the variant. Okay, I look at transaction per session, I look at revenue per session. Like I said, these are just examples I want to show you. So the point here is that after you analyze the holistic test group and control group, or baseline and variant, after you analyze that, you should go further to also understand some segments that could impact your results, so you can learn more, not to necessarily conclude statistical validity, but you want to just learn more. You go with a curious mind to really understand what is going on. So please go and try some of these things on your own. And finally, I would like to talk about the reason why, even if you observe a statistically significant result, it does not mean that every time you replicate the experiment, or if you roll out this experiment to your entire population, you will have the same result. Okay, let's see why. So the number one reason why you cannot guarantee that if you replicate the result of a statistical experiment, you get the same answer. The number one reason is purely because you are running this on a sample. Okay, and then there's a concept called random sampling variability. Okay, just because that there's variability in random sampling, you cannot purely guarantee that your result from another sample is going to be the same. Okay, purely because of what? Sampling variability. Of course, you can do this or correct this by like having larger and larger sample, but again, just because you are selecting a sample and because of random sampling variability, you cannot really guarantee that your result, if replicated, will yield the same conclusion. Okay, number two is that statistical significance is different from replicability. Okay, statistical significance means that what you are observing is not likely due to chance, but replicability means that if you were to run that experiment again, you will actually have the same conclusion. They are two different concepts. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, and then finally, we have something called type 1 error and then type 2 error. Okay, type 1 error is like what is typically called false positive, and then type 2 error is actually false negative. Okay, so it's possible that you may actually reject a null hypothesis that is actually true. Okay, that's 5% of the time. If you set your significance level at 5%, it means that could happen 5% of the time. Okay, and similarly, you could actually encounter type 2 error, which is failing to reject a hypothesis that's actually not true. Okay, so because you have those probability situations, you cannot 100% guarantee that a result of a statistical experiment will yield the same result if you replicate it again. So the way to handle this is to make sure that if you want to be 100% sure, maybe you can replicate your study a couple of times, or make sure that your experimental design is robust enough, okay, so that your confidence can be very high. But ultimately, it is always good to kind of run these experiments, so that you can at least be confident a little bit that this is not likely due to chance. Okay, I hope this is helpful. Of course, this 10 minutes video cannot actually go deeper into all of these concepts, but I hope you gain something from this. We'll talk later.